Hi, and welcome to Mystic Muses Play D&D.
A storytelling podcast where an all-queer table of all Femme players
and our amazing non-binary DM
tell stories set in the Homebrew world of perdition,
with hopes of venturing out into a realm filled with mystery, magic, and mirth.
You haven't met our characters yet,
but you will.
Because when impossible acts of magic have shunted the world into chaos,
A cleric, a ranger, a sorcerer, and a druid. 4 unlikely heroes will find themselves fighting to restore the balance.
so now,
Our story can begin.
in the young nation of the Veiled Rock, our 4 unlikely heroes have their adventure begin in a wonderful, bustling city of Varosia, a city teeming with thrill-seekers, hunters, and a recent surge of quest-hungry adventurers. While many are there to try the up-and-coming breakfast cuisine of the Thirsty Fox Inn, others driven further to the north where sits the Great Marsh, a dark and corrupted place, which mysteriously holds the power to raise bodies of the deceased within mere minutes. However, our story begins with Verna. Plagued with visions and dreams, coming to terms with an unknown destiny, they found sleep difficult within the safety of the Cathedral to the Grey Lady. They begin their morning, a quiet storm approaching in the sky, as they get ready to prepare themselves to tackle their fate and destiny once and for all. What does Verna look like as they begin their day?
Verna is very tall and lanky in their proportions. From the top of their head, they stand at about 6'8" due to their horns, which start from the temple, curving back and up, and have been adorned with several rings. 2 towards the tips, which are connected by chains, and 1 towards the base of their left horn. Upon first glance, you would think that all the colour has been completely drained from the grey-skinned tiefling, and on closer inspection you can see that their fingertips are black, as well as the tips of their pointed ears and their tail. Their hair is black with 2 white streaks and is closely shaved at the sides and around the back of their head, with a small portion tied into a small bun. Their eyes, which are pitch black, are surrounded by dark grey markings that flick out into 3 points. Their clothing is in various shades of blacks and greys, and under a dark charcoal cloak that's been fastened with a symbol of the Grey Lady, they wear silver-coloured scale armour with a black sash tied around their waist.
After they say farewell to their mentor Oriana, reaching the doors to take their first steps out confronting their demons of the past, the storm outside brings a powerful wind blowing open the doors to this church. Sven, following the path down the river, down the Blade Point Peak Mountains, and into Varosia, a storm quietly darkens in the sky. Sven and his fishy companion Marvin the Salmon eventually touch down dockside, discarding an unfortunately bludgeoned and sinking riverboat. But either way, excited to explore a new city and encounter new friends. How does Sven look as he's traversing down the river and entering the city of Varosia?
Sven stands at 7.5 feet tall. He's a ranger Goliath, very strong but leaner than his peers. His skin is deep grey, his darker pattern almost having a bluish undertone. His eyes are honey brown with specks of green, and he keeps his long ash blonde hair off his face with braids, both for functional and aesthetic purposes. He wears a leather armor covering his chest and shoulders. He wears a white linen shirt, cargo trousers, and newest hiking boots, acquired for his new adventures. On his back, a big long bow passed down from his father. He's also carrying a big sword, and on his hips he carries 2 short swords and a little mason jar with his animal companion, Marvin the Salmon, a little red-orange-yellow goldfish. And he tries to be tough, but he's a big, big softy.
And as you take your time exploring the wondrous city of Varosia, you hear a nearby crash of thunder and flash of lightning. Lord Elderwood. Coming into his city in a decadent carriage and a task in his mind, Lord Elderwood also explores the new sights and smells of a bustling and thriving city. The familiar barrage of thoughts as he peers into the minds of those he passes. Distant conversations about market sales, the strange magical happenings across the continent, the string of disappearances too numerous to be random, and the bustling popularity of the Thirsty Fox Inn. What does Lord Elderwood look like as he begins heading to a place to stay?
Lord Elderwood is a man standing 6 foot, 6'2", with heeled knee-high boots, young, cold features with a strong jawline and nose, dark, curly, blue-black hair, and neon blue eyes that seem uncanny and unnerving. On him, he wears an ombre lilac and deep blue pleated overcoat, a white frilled shirt underneath with a leather belt around his waist, straps that dangle with gold designs, and a chest harness made of gold chains and jewels that connect up to a black choker, a red jewel in the middle. He has similar designed wrist cuffs on him too. On his left hand, his ring finger, a beautiful ring, black metal twisted around blood red jewels, too many to count, and around his shoulders is a simple cloak. He isn't a man to carry much with him, so perhaps a simple shoulder bag. but most other unimportant things have been left with the carriage.
And as you begin to open the door, Sven, Werner, and Lord Elderwood, the flare of lightning strikes merely 25 feet from each of you, frozen in place before converging into the form of a lightning elemental set on destroying all in its path. Our three adventurers take no time to leap into action, and after extending all their efforts, they manage to take out the creature, leaving behind a simple, unidentified red crystal. Wondering about the origins of this creature, they followed Werner into the Cathedral of the Grey Lady, with the crystal in hand, when suddenly the crystal began to glow, and the voice of a high mage of the arcane named Torrent professes to causing the attack, with more planned in the future with use of the Great Marsh. Realizing that some of their threads converge at the Great Marsh, the three adventurers decide to travel together. But first, a chance to recuperate after the fight. Shopping, eating, and research abound. Our adventurers spend their day relaxing before gathering themselves the next morning. With the help of Lord Edelwood's carriage and footmen, the adventurers head along the Western Marsh Road before continuing on foot once the path becomes impassable. Trudging through the muck and fetid earth, our adventurers come across a landscape of mushrooms, cups and toadstools looming around them as a figure sits across the distance, staring at these mushrooms in wonder. What does Inoki look like in this moment?
The figure before you is filthy and dishevelled. She's covered in mud and clutching a fistful of chanterelles. You see a dragonborn druid of bronze origin, with blue and green flecks amongst their ruddy scales, and 8 horns swept back from her angular face. She stands at 6.5 feet tall and around 300 pounds. A blunt snout, piercing glinted yellow eyes of mischief, and scars on the left side of her neck. She wears a cream blouse, a light green waistcoat with chicken of the woods mushrooms embroidered on it, dark green loose pants, a thick brown belt, and an amber necklace around her neck.
With this curious figure sitting before them, that, dear listeners, is where our adventure begins. Something strange and foul awaits our unlikely heroes, and a fate unknown to them will begin to unfold in the trenches of the Great Marsh.